Give me some info.
All right, so Gabe Onifree, born and raised in Texas for the most part. For the first decade of my life, I was a military brat. So my dad was a airborne ranger. He passed away when I was 10 years old. So graduated from Texas City High School, went to college for a couple of years, enlisted in the Army, served 3 years in the Army Infantry in Fort Lewis, got out, went to college, wanted to make the American dream happen, so I became a chemical operator, and I did that for about 10 years. Got married, kids, good life, good life. Changed careers to training and consulting and safety. Been doing that since about 2007 on various consulting roles, safety management, leadership. So I still do it now. I have a part-time job where I do consulting and training for DECRA. So that's me. A couple of years ago, had a spiritual awakening, walked out of my life, just walked in faith to find a different purpose or find my purpose. Took me probably about a year, maybe a year and a half into that walk. Warrior Spirit was born, nonprofit. I met her mid 2003. She was living in College Station still. She was teaching, and we just kind of hit it off. Started talking about a lot of our experience in life. Of course, we're grown-ups. We're half a century old, and we're talking about our lives and stuff. And there was just a pull to service that we had, and we did some healing, both of us, healing on each other. And in, I guess, early 2024, we drafted a journal because journaling in our life was part of the healing, right? Revealing who we really are, trying to we are. So we published a journal, just put it on Amazon. It was kind of like a bucket list kind of thing. So say, oh, we published something and put it on Amazon. And somewhere in between, I guess, March, April timeframe, we were approached. Well, I had donated a brisket to a nonprofit that was having a graduation of some veterans out of their equine therapy program. And Ann Henderson, she probably know
Oh
her.
man, that's
Yeah.
how I learned
Rainbow
about you
Hope.
guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was returning the big crock pot that I had delivered to her for the brisket. And she was over and they started talking. She used to be a grant writer. Ashley was a grant writer. Ann was looking for a grant writer. Then she started talking about, we have a new program with equine therapy that we're implementing a journaling, but we don't know what we're going to do. We're like, oh, well, we just published a journal. So we developed a 2-day 4-hour class that we started doing. And from there, we just said, well, we can start a nonprofit. Didn't know what we were really getting into, but we knew that service was going to be the root of it. So everybody that has a servant's heart, that's one of our tagline, a servant's heart, warrior spirit, a servant's heart is, people that serve others. So, we looked at veterans, first responders, teachers, people in recovery or people that support recovery, people in recovery, and just young adults, And so or youth, and we were looking to just nurture those servants' hearts because we all want to go save the world, but we can't. And there's already people that are saving the world, that are helping, right? So we wanted to nurture those people, to help those people to continue on because it's easy to get bitter, right? When you're serving and you're not getting, I don't know, fed, or you're not getting, sometimes you can feel like you're being taken advantage of.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to show gratitude to those people that serve, again, to nurture the hearts and to really know why, in the Bible, it always talks about remembering your first love, right? Christ. So remembering, we just want people to remember their first love of service and continue their journey. So yeah, that's where we're at. We made a year in May. Mm-hmm. We made a year at War Spirit in May. This year we're looking to not to be a little bit more focused and intentional. We have a few things on the burner, right?
In the pipe.
Yeah. So we're looking for ways to support the nonprofit online. We're looking at different products. I'll share this where we're looking into AI assisted therapy. We're going to call it Warrior Spirit Companion. It's in the works. Don't want to get into too many details about it because we haven't developed. We're still in development.
It's just things that complement what we're already doing, because as you're doing it, you see gaps in services, or you see things like, oh, this would be great. And then something gets put in your path and it all just kind of comes together. And so we're finding the things that, so you have this wraparound of services and the whole person, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual.
That's amazing.
And so I did a lot of that with, when I did become a journalist, a newspaper journalist, focused a lot on first responders, why they do what they do, why they get into it. So at first I did, when I graduated, I started out in radio, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
I can imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Giving away things, concerts, all that kind of fun stuff. But I knew that I had more. And so I made the switch over to newspaper and found my space in crime journalism. And that's what's what brought me to Texas.
So crime journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an example.
I've been in the middle of a standoff, those kinds of things where, it shouldn't be Bryan College Station. There's not a ton of things that happen there. But
it's a college town.
It is a college town.
Okay.
So yeah, we had, people stealing pigs from the A&M vet. Yeah. But
like to eat or
no,
just to free?
Just a prank.
Oh,
yeah.
Good
So
questions.
we had silly things, but we also had, we had some drive-by shootings that I was able to be out there and just talk to the families of just kind of bringing the human aspect to the story. And then
Right.
also the first responders, because people have that tendency to always be scared of the police. But I wanted to showcase like why they do what they do,
Mhm.
and some of their stories that they wanted to share. And so I really enjoyed my time there. And I did a lot of work in spotlighting domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault,
That's hard.
animal abuse. But I became really close with the director of the domestic violence shelter. And so she said, hey, we have this grant that we just got, and we're going to create a prevention program. Would you want to come work with us and create that? And I was like, absolutely. So it was a way to find a voice and to use the writing and use my voice for something, for a great need, for a great cause. And I just fell in love with advocacy and did work in domestic violence and sexual assault and child abuse at the state level, at the national level. I lived in California and Arizona, and then came back to Texas eventually. After a while, I started feeling that kind of burnout that he was talking about, was that kind of serving burnout. I felt like God had something different for me, and it came in the form of education. And so it was like, okay, I want to be a teacher. I want to be an advocate for kids in a different way, and basically be the adult that I needed when I was their age. And so that's what I did. And I taught for 10 years, and it was great because my son was in school at the time. And so I got to be on his schedule and got to meet some amazing kids through teaching and through coaching track. And so just of all ages. And so I feel like sometimes I got more from them than they got from me, but it's a great way just to see the world through their eyes. And so it was rejuvenating.
Yeah.
It was refreshing to do that. And then I decided I wanted to get out of that and go back into working for myself and doing grant writing full time. And so that's what I thought I was going to do. And then when I did leave, that's when the journaling came up and the nonprofit was born, and he's kind of like he shared. And it was great because it was always something I thought, I would love to have my own nonprofit, or I would love to do something. And I saw this need for teachers, and especially for youth, all the anxiety. And I just thought, we got to do more, because as a teacher, the school districts would be like, oh, here's some food, or here's some of this, but like something more for them, because I saw people really struggle. And so I just felt like everything fell into place. God put everything in our path. God put him in my path, somebody that wanted to serve others and love others just as much as I did. And it just all came together. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for it, because I've already, still teaching, just in a different way, and still helping people find their voice. And
That's amazing. That's amazing. When you said you started your journey to religion, through religion, what did that journey look like? Was it something like, so in my mind, I know a lot of veterans, this might be totally off subject, but like a ayahuasca journey, is that something similar? And you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
So, well, I've always been a Christian, right? I grew up Catholic, straight away from Catholic, did non-denominational churches, but never really was planted in church. I mean, in the military there were some very divine intervention things that happened when I was in the military that I could not say God was taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to church faithfully, but when I left the military, I stopped going to church as well. Just couldn't find a church. So stayed away. Tried to every now and then I would go, but it wasn't part of my life. I struggled with Bible, with understanding religion, but when the spiritual awakening happened to me, it was like I had to give love to them. That's all I could explain. That's how, that's just what the message I was. Go give love to the world. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it looked like. I knew I was going to go on a spiritual journey. That's all I knew. And it was like walk in faith and let it unravel. And a lot of things happened that I can't explain, divine intervention, how things lined up. They were. But I was on a spiritual path, and the spiritual path, like we would say like New Age stuff, right?
Mhm.
But everything went back to the teachings of Jesus. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go back to the source, right? So I stepped back into religion, started going to church, struggled with the Bible, struggled with Christians, struggled with church. And probably this was just last year sometime after we started the nonprofit, I was talking to a psychologist, a Christian psychologist. And I told him, man, I've always had struggle, with church and all these things. And he says, if you just stay Christ focused, nobody ever leaves church because of Jesus, right? He goes, it sounds like you have a Christian problem and not a Jesus problem. So I started to study, and it was like, what does Jesus say? And that's how I approached reading the Bible. Well, everything I read in the Bible, I said, well, what does Jesus say about this? And it helped me refine my, find my passion again for becoming a disciple. I'm very cautious sometimes of saying I'm Christian because I do what Jesus says. I follow what Jesus says, So again, now I don't believe Jesus is exclusively for Christians. I think Jesus is for everybody, and it's their own journey. And I can't tell anybody about their relationship with God because I know my relationship with God, and that's it. I don't know anybody else's. But I can guarantee you, if you follow and do what Jesus says, you'll create a relationship with God.
And that's a basis of too, like our tagline is grow, give, love. And that's what we live by. It's part of,
Yeah.
of the way of Jesus' way is to
Grow, give, love.
yeah. So in the spiritual journey, my son went off into the military in 2021. He went into the Navy and was like, this is your adventure. And he's like, okay, now Mom, it's time for your adventure. And so I think the spiritual journey is a part of that adventure. When I met Gabe, found that kindred spirit of somebody that likes to look at everything, that, your heart is with Jesus, but you're open to listening to different things and to reading different things. And so shortly after we met, before we'd even met in person, he said, I don't know, I'm on this spiritual, journey in this path, and I don't know where I'm going to be next week. But he's like, but if you want to walk with me. And immediately God just was like, yes, walk with him. And so I was like, yes, I'll walk with you.
I need to be straightforward with this
Yeah.
this woman because I don't know, I have no plans. I don't know where I'm going to be at tomorrow, next week, or next month. I'm just walking a journey. I'm walking a path of faith. If you want to walk with me, you can. If you don't, I understand. I was on a journey, and it was. I look back, man. It's pretty crazy.
How far we come.
Have y'all always been like this chill, like, I don't know, you got like a chill vibe?
I don't know. And we've matured together spiritually,
Yeah.
and honestly, I don't know.
Well, for me, I have more peace now than I had in years past. Anxiety was just something, and worrying about the future, and thinking about past that makes you worry about something in the future, and then being a parent and everything else. And I think part of it is our journey, and part of it is being with him, and what we teach others about peace, about being I call it being detached from the outcome. And I used to worry so much about what was going to happen or what wasn't going to happen or if it was going to happen this way. And when I stopped doing that, I found like a great sense of peace. And that's what I want for everybody. So it's like what we have, I'm just like, I want that for everybody. I want everybody to feel peace and everybody feel love. And that's when I get excited and I get all in my spirit and just,
I mean, and we do got the advantage of age as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've lived a life already. And, we know what's good and we know what's bad. And when you don't worry about tomorrow, you don't worry about next week, and you let things just fold out, it's just like, wow, I didn't realize I didn't have to work so hard to make my future, you know? And it's more like I'm a very charismatic, call it charismatic Christian, but I'm the person. I believe in manifestation. I believe in speaking your future. I believe, I mean, it says it in the Bible. You know, I believe in miracles. I believe in all these things. I believe we've barely tapped into who we really are. And once we're able to let go and shed this world, those things start to occur. You know, they start to manifest. It's really, really crazy. I'll tell you one of the biggest things I had to get over was early last year I lost my job. And I was like, you know what? I need a couple of months off. Let me just take a couple of months off. And then this is when the nonprofit started to, you know, the thoughts of the nonprofit started to come up. And I'm like, well, man, I need retirement though. How am I going to retire? You know, how is a nonprofit going to help me retire? And how is a nonprofit going to, you know, what money am I going to use? And money I had saved up, it was like, am I supposed to use this? You know, God was like, you know what? You started walking in faith and like I've been taking care of you your whole life. Why are you going to care about, you know, why are you worried about what I'm going to be doing in 15 years? Just walk in faith, right? So a very big testament of the faith was to say, okay, I'll let you take care of my finances. I'll let you take care of me. You know, I'll be the good steward of it, but you just show me what, you know, I will do what you want me to do. And the basis of our life is the nonprofit, is sowing into the kingdom of heaven, is getting the words and the teachings of Jesus out there. That is what we do. Everything else comes. And that's how we live life. And it's kind of like, I liken it to, you know, when you're taking your kids bowling and they put the gutter bumpers up.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the nonprofit is the gutter bumpers of us staying focused on the kingdom of heaven. Because I believe you can have the kingdom of heaven on earth right now. We can experience it just like we can experience hell. So, yeah, I don't know where the question was, but I'm kind of.
Yeah,
I have a question
Okay.
that's probably, I don't know, it's a little on, I just want to know your opinion. And again, if y'all feel some type of way after I ask. With everything that happened this weekend in Texas, you know, the loss of them, it's a lot of young children. Is it normal or is it right to kind of question faith? Because, you know, if I kind of woke up and had a thought, and you know, I like to consider myself a religious person. I don't know if religious is the right word. Spiritual person, but you know, I had questions. I wanted to know why. You know, I don't know if I'm
Why it
asking the
happened.
question.
No, you've seen, I mean,
correctly.
I've been watching a lot of it and watching a lot of it on the news, and just because I like to find the rescue stories and the good stories and just to be aware. And so I've seen people in news stories and seen people in clips and things saying like, you know, I'm wondering why God, we watched this morning, he said, why God allowed this to happen. But I have faith that something good is going to come from it. And so I've seen a lot of people react in different ways to it. It's incredibly tragic. And as a parent, as a mom, especially who's had a child that's gone off to camp, you think about that and you start reflecting on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I go back to what I believe in. I believe our lifetime here is a blink of an eye in eternity, right? So the Bible says we will return to God. So we've been with God before and we'll return to God. I also believe that our God is a hands-off God. And, you know, Jesus always teaches about sowing and reaping. So what we sow, we will reap, good or bad. I'm not saying that, you know, somebody sowed into this flood and this tragedy that happened. But again, I believe, you know, God's a hands-off God and everything he does works for good. And we're all God's children, and we'll be back with him.
I want to know, okay, Warrior Spirit. You said you're a year old. Tell me what the logo represents first.
So the logo is like a steel, you know, heart, right? And it's supposed to show power, right?
Okay.
Strength and resilience. And then inside is the flame that burns that, you know, when I'm thinking of flame, I'm thinking the desire, flame of God, the flame of the Holy Spirit, the desire to do good, to do that. It's exposed because sometimes, you know, our heart can be calloused up, you know.
Yeah.
But we do have to be tough. We do have to be tough mentally, I believe. You have to be in your convictions, right? And for a long time, my conviction was success. My conviction was overcoming. But there's a different conviction now, right? And my conviction is serving. And I still think you still have to have that warrior's heart, right? But don't forget the softness. I wanted to just contrast the
All right.
hardness and the softness, you know.
Yeah.
'Cause it is, you can get discouraged in doing good. And I know in the Bible it says, not be discouraged. Don't be weary in doing good. But I've seen it. I've experienced it in working in the nonprofit and working in education, that people can become calloused up or burnt out or just otherwise not taking care of themselves. And that's something that we actually do as part of Warrior Spirit, is we do teach self-care. And so I've done that with people who work with kids. I've done that for teachers, and that reminder, and because we have to remind ourselves to take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
but also making sure that other people are as well, because that's how to keep that softness on the inside. That's how to keep your strength and your softness in balance, is taking care of yourself.
So what are y'all doing gonna prevent the burnout? Because I know a lot of nonprofits, especially a lot of servants, they get burnt out. So is it something y'all are doing different?
Well, being a veteran, I didn't realize how many services or free things are out there for veterans, right? So we work with Skeleton Crew. They're a close partner. I go sailing with them, teaching me how to swim. Yeah. We do equine therapy. We ride horses. We're with the horses. What else do
We
we
spend
do?
a lot of time in nature. We do a lot
Oh,
of
yeah, we do a lot of-
hiking
yeah.
and walks and
Yeah.
things like that in nature, because that's definitely refreshing.
But it's we do go on retreats
Mhm.
with other people. We're doing a White Oaks retreat
Mhm.
in the fall. She's doing one. I'm doing one. They're separate.
And they're for veterans and
First
first responders, and then their spouses.
Yeah.
So they have a one for women and one for men.
So
That'd be
yeah,
great.
we practice what we preach.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what we do. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like,
And-
so I do want to share what we did, which is because you had mentioned something earlier. So we provide breathwork classes, and we did a breathwork class a few weeks back for an organization. It's called Cloud Break, and it's like a transitional homing, low income homes for people in Houston. And so again, we did this breathwork class, and I was kind of nervous because people are kind of, you don't know how they're going to react with
Right,
breathwork,
right.
but the thing is that it can make you feel silly, but in the end, I think it gives you peace, it gives you wholeness, it helps you recognize yourself, right? So I'll let Ashley share some of
Yeah.
the things that they.
Yeah, the director, she emailed me, and they had a huge inspection the next day. So everybody was kind of a little nervous about it. So it came at the perfect time. And she said, wow, she goes, I haven't slept that well in weeks. And she was like, and everything with the inspection went great. And so it was great to be able to give that to them, because they gave us the opportunity to teach journaling classes and teach things to their residents. So to be able to do something for them was fantastic. And the fact that they got so much out of it, 'cause I love breath work.
That's one of those woo things. It works. It works for us, at least.
Yeah. And there's some, like, even the journaling classes turn out to be just fellowship, just conversation.
Mhm.
And I'm always thinking, I need to write that down, what that person said. Or like one of the older gentlemen said, he said, I'm grateful that God has given me the ability to see things from other people's perspective. And I thought, that is a gift, but it's not something you think, oh, I should be grateful for that.
Right.
But yeah, so there's so much wisdom out there, and I think this has been, a way for us to grow as well personally in doing what we do, is because we learn so much from others, and then other people like Ann that are out there doing the work. I mean, she is one of the most biggest cheerleader, and what they're doing out there with the young adults with special needs and with the veterans programs are just outstanding.
And so what do y'all give me some other programs that y'all do with Warrior Spirit? And
Why Warrior Spirit? Again, it's, I believe you have to have that warrior spirit to be vulnerable, to help people, to show love and compassion. Growing up, I hate to stereotype us like I do, but Hispanic males, Army veterans. I'm talking about my feelings.
Yeah.
I have to make it masculine. It's a word spirit. That's what it is.
It's
You know,
badass. I like it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So when Ann was telling me about you guys, I started hit the website and started looking around, and I was like, I'm gonna reach out to them. I need to get them on the show.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
I'm all about learning about different prophets doing doing awesome things in the community. So I noticed y'all reach out to veterans as well as first responders.
Mhm.
So why?
So
I'll let
When-
you talk about
yeah,
population.
when
but
I-
I can speak to the educated
Yeah.
youth, but
when I was a chemical operator, I was a first responder at the chemical plants, firefighter, EMT, at High Angle Rescue. So I did those things, within like 9 or 10 years of me being a chemical operator. I also volunteered as an EMT for League City for 2 years. And I just seen how these people were. I seen how first responders were. They have a different personality. They have a different sense of humor.
Yeah.
You see where they try to cover up some things where
They do a lot of similarities to veterans.
I mean,
Especially
Yes.
with the
yeah.
humor,
Yeah,
I seen a lot of that. Yeah.
And that
I mean,
was
it's-
something that I had to get used to when I was a crime reporter, because I was like, are these guys joking?
Yeah.
And then when you understand why, and that's one of the reasons why there's such a population close to my heart, is having worked with them and then worked in crime victim services for so long, that you see what they go through and how it affects them, and having to switch gears and go home to a family and leave work behind. I think that's difficult for anybody that's serving others, is to be able to switch gears. And even I saw it in education too, to be able to leave that at work and not take it home with you. And of course, educators and youth were a big population that I wanted to focus on, just from having had that experience. And I saw so many youth, especially girls, struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, struggling with self-harm. And it's just a different childhood a different, I guess, environment growing up in, with the social media and the digital world.
Yeah.
Is a little bit different for them. And so I think the pressures are higher than they were when I was younger. So
I definitely see that, especially the whole online bullying, things like that.
Yeah.
People ruthless.
yes, they are. So it's nice. I mean, I feel like what we're doing now in the peer support aspect of working with people individually is similar to probably what we did in our other jobs. It's just now we're doing it like with intention, with focus. We've done our training in the state of Texas. You can become mental health peer support specialist and recovery peer support specialist. And the difference is, and this is what I love, is that the person that you're working with knows that you've been through something similar
Yeah.
than what they've been through. And I mean, for me, if anybody's ever been to a therapist, I would rather talk to somebody that
100%.
understands than somebody that's just gone to school to get a degree. Nothing against it. Nothing
No,
against counselors.
100%.
But we've seen a really big response in that. And I have a young girl that I'm working with now, and she's just made great strides, and she's just absolutely amazing.
That's
and
nice.
so I look forward to it. To seeing, and we just do our peer support. We walk around the park, spend time outside, and it's amazing. So to be a part of somebody's life in that way.
It's crazy that you say that, because I feel the same way. When I hit 6 years sobriety and clean. So throughout that journey, in the beginning, I got in trouble, and I was doing the whole counselor, probation officer, therapist thing. I mean, I still do, but not because I have to now. But it's just, I never really took to heart unless they experienced it the way that it was. If like when it came to drugs and alcohol, like you can't, because you read that shit. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
No,
yeah.
and beneath it all, it's trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what we've found in our journey in healing and then in educating ourselves, in studying, is that the root of so much comes to childhood trauma, and comes to three big major things that we were talking about yesterday, were abandonment, unworthiness, and
lack.
And
Just
so
a lack mentality.
right.
Not thinking there's ever enough. So you're hoarding your money, or you're just a hoarder, or you
Yeah.
know. So it's those types of things, and there's a sense freedom in letting go of anything, like not owning anything. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to own things. You know, the American dream: buy a house. You know,
Right.
You know,
There's certain lack, that fear that I think gets instilled in us, especially with the retirement. You got to make sure
Oh.
you have enough of this. You got to make sure you,
yeah,
and for me, it was like, I think that's why I saved up the nest egg for so long. And I kept thinking, well, just in case of an emergency, what if something happens?
Yeah.
And that's just not a good, healthy way to live. And of course, then God eventually goes, oh, no, you're going to use that for good. And so there you go.
yeah. There's a practice that we do with gratitude, right? And it's identifying, recognizing what you have. It's appreciating what you have, right? So and then it's allowing for the next things to come.
Mhm.
And allowing for the next thing to come is the hardest thing to do, because I'm still learning how to do it. But she has a great story on how this happened.
Oh, okay. So when I was a teacher, name any school districts. But when I was a teacher, so I took a job to teach music. So I was like, okay, this is great. This is going to be fun. And they said, well, we don't have an art teacher now. Would you teach both? And I was like, ooh, okay, that's kind of intimidating. I'm not the best, but my mom was an art teacher. So I'm like, oh, this might be my great opportunity. Like, oh, and we see that you've done gifted and talented. Oh, would you mind doing our gifted and talented classes too? And then track coaching and everything else. And I started feeling resentful that I
Yeah.
was being asked to do so many things, but yet there was no additional, no, the salary was no bump. There was no stipends for anything. And so I just realized, it's just got really upset about it. I was like, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. But I stopped and kind of was like, okay, I've got to change my mindset, And I started looking at it as, this is an opportunity to create my own program. And so for art, they didn't have a curriculum. So I got to create what I wanted to create. And so I reached out to my mom and I was like, do you have any ideas? Do you have anything like from when you taught? And so I would go to her house and she would teach me all this stuff. She had all these materials, all these things. And she would teach me things. And I would go back and I would teach the kid and then tell her, hey, look, or send her pictures. This is what happened. This is great. And I realized by appreciating that opportunity, like my mom and I became a lot closer.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always been close, but like we were spending time together and talking art and doing art, and she was teaching me, and then that reinvigorated her because she's retired, and so it was like she got to kind of break out all of her skills and things again. But it really brought us a lot closer. And then I thought, okay, I was making way for that next thing to come, and that's what came, and I'm so grateful for it. I taught art for 2 years, and I still do art with kids now, and I'm just grateful for that. So kind of just changing your mindset to gratitude. You never know what's going to come.
I mean, again, we published that journal. We didn't know. I mean, but that if it wasn't for that journal, we wouldn't have this nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
What's the journal called?
It's in your bag.
It's I am because
I was gonna get it on Amazon. Yeah.
No, you got it right there.
it's called I Am Because of the Great I Am, and it's really about finding your
It's back.
the divinity in you, right? Your Holy Spirit, the Christ, whatever you want to call it, finding the godliness in you. And it's because of God that we have it. I mean, and the Bible tells us. So, in the front, there's like 20 pages or so of some guidance, faith, peace, joy, and gratitude. That's what we, kind of talk about to focus on. But we also talk about a mental model in there and why we do and say the things we do.
Mhm.
We say and do these things because of our thoughts and emotions. But where do our thoughts and emotions come from? Our thoughts and emotions come from our past experiences, current situations, beliefs, and values. So, in the class, this is what we teach in the class. So we start to break down, we actually have a different class as well called Trigger Discipline. And we really go down into the weeds with that of, what experiences do you have that trigger you now? What were they, right? So we tell a funny story where she had just moved in and, she was leaving half empty bottles of water all over the place and leaving doors open and lights on and stuff. And I was like, man, this is starting to really bother her,
Oh,
right?
Man, everything you just said, I'm living my life right now, bro.
So This is starting to really bother me. So I'm like, but she's over there happy, hey, she's good. I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's my problem, right? So I started to like, well, why do I feel that? I mean, I did this to my kids as well, like, hey, close the door, turn the light off, whatever. But when I started to think about, why it was bothering me so much, it was because the way I was raised, right? I had to stay at the table, eat all my food, couldn't be wasteful,
Yeah.
right? Got a whooping one time for leaving the door open at my friend's house. So all these things that had happened when I was a kid, that's why it shaped who I was, right? So I sat down and I said, hey, listen, I told her my issues. I said, but this is why. I'm like, you're fine. It's my problem, right?
Right.
It's one of the things, right? If you have a problem with somebody, it's not theirs, it's yours. So, I mean, and we talked about it, but, it's just, I mean, and that's just a little tongue in cheek kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's
I
other
did
things.
stop doing.
Did you?
Well, I almost. No, but I mean, the way he approached it, I always tell
Right.
people the way he approached it was like, oh, I don't want to trigger him. So I'm going to be better about that. I did that because I was raised the same way. And I was like, oh, I'm an adult now. I can do whatever I want. I can leave the bottles everywhere. I can, just not even thinking about it. But it made me want to not trigger him. And so now I take great joy when he leaves something. I'm like, oh, are you done with that coffee cup? So it's become like this little funny thing between us. And but it's a good little tongue in cheek example of kind of like things that trigger little things that can do that.
I mean,
So,
we introduce it like that, and we allow the veterans or the first responders to, journal or start to write down what kind of triggers they have,
mhm.
and send, then let them think about it, because there are things that can trigger a bad anger, and we still and it still happens to us, and we know what they are.
Mhm.
It's just it's hard to change old habits, or it's hard to change your ways when your body also remembers,
Yeah.
right? Like remembering that you say 6 years sobriety. How long did it take you to be able to go into a bar and grill just to go eat and not want to drink, or like feel comfortable to go into a bar and grill, right? To where you didn't have to have a drink. So, our body remembers these things. It took me, and I'll say like last month was the first time in years I was able to sit at a bar, have a diet soda, and eat lunch. Because I was the same way. Like, while I'm at the bar, I should be drinking if I'm at the bar, right?
Uh-huh.
So, breaking those things off, which again, I don't know if I'm like what alcoholic addict. I never really put those labels on myself. I just didn't speak that over myself a lot. I mean, I knew I had some issues. I like to binge drink and, recreational drugs and stuff like that. But I didn't know if it was really a problem. But once I figured out, those were the symptoms of a root problem, it broke off, So, I may have a drink every now and then, some wine or a few drinks when I go to a concert or something, and and that's it. It's not that bender I used to go on anymore.
Right,
It's just
He's not escaping from anything
yeah,
anymore.
there's nothing I'm running from anymore.
When did you realize that you were able to do that?
Able to
Like just okay, so you were doing a
binge
consistent
drinker.
drinking.
Yeah.
You were doing consistent drinking, and then now you're able to go to a concert and have just a couple. At what point did you test that?
There's a lot of failures, and not that it's perfect every now and then. So,
Right.
so for me now, it's not the bender that gets me. It's like if I wake up and I have a headache, or if I have experience, I've overdone it. I've sinned against myself. I went against my conviction. So that's what keeps me in check now, because I don't want to feel the regret
Yeah,
the next day.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying it's perfect or anything. I still do believe one day I'll probably not ever drink again. But, but the thing is that previously I never seen my life without drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can, because I'd quit for a few months, So, and it takes you, it takes that body, it takes your body to a while to get sober. Even if you have, if you want to say, like a relapse or whatever. And again, a relapse for me would not be having a drink. A relapse for me would be to go on a bender.
Yeah, have a moment.
Yeah.
And it's and in the early part of our relationship, I could kind of sense that too. I could be like, okay, we need to get out of here, because I can tell that he wants to.
Yeah, it was like
have
the
a drink.
uncomfortable. It was the
Yeah, and
uncomfortableness.
I could feel how uncomfortable he was, and so I think it helps with anything that either one of us battles, when you have somebody that supports you, that understands, that may not have walked the same path. I haven't walked the same path that he has, but
And
the
she's not a
support.
drinker either, so that helped out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Just I love you all the way around.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Uh-huh.
And not having had that, since childhood on up, the expectation to be perfect. You had to be perfect to be loved.
Yeah.
That's how I grew.
Oh, I see.
And so to have somebody that's just like, hey, no matter what. And that's just kind of how very lucky, very, very blessed.
So y'all been together for
It'll be 2 years in July.
2 years, and 1 year ago y'all started the nonprofit.
And May
Oh,
2024.
that's-
I think it took a while to like working from home, the distractions,
Yeah.
but just finding that like what our strengths are. And so I want to do this way. No, this way, and then you're trying to figure that out. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, like until you find your groove. But I'd always been one of those worker bees. You tell me what to do, I'll get whatever done, just kind of like get stuff done kind of thing. And so it's like I'd taking somebody's vision and putting it into place. And so he was more the visionary. So it kind of like that was good. But then like for me, I have a tendency to like, I want to do everything. And so he's really good about pulling me back and going, you don't have to.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, well, then you better do it. But yeah, I think with any job, yeah, there's that learning curve, but especially when it's your spouse.
So when it comes to the nonprofit Warrior Spirit, what are some of the challenges that y'all have experienced so far?
I think the challenges with any nonprofit right now is fundraising, is finding out what's going to work for us and what, how we should focus on the development aspect and the sustainability. So that's always a challenge. And then also making sure, like you said, not to spread everything too thin and to find the focus, because you come in and you're like, I want to do this. And I told you that's kind of how I am. So finding that focus, and then I think that's it's a challenge, but it's a good kind of challenge.
So we offer 2 classes, core classes that we have. We do breath work and we do peer support. And then, of course, we support all the other nonprofits. We're partners with any nonprofit that wants us to support. And that's the biggest thing. With Skeleton Crew, we kind of did customized classes because, again, they're dealing with veterans with PTSD, and they're going out selling on a boat,
Yeah.
So, conflict resolution, we did a class for them on that. So, again,
One of the challenges too, and this kind of came up in one of our classes with veterans, was like getting them out the door into whatever it is that's going on.
What do you mean?
So we were this was an equine class that we did. And we were around the table just talking, and we were having a conversation, and one veteran says, man, I was looking for every excuse not to show up today. Another veteran says, yeah, I came 30 minutes early just to see if I really wanted to come or not. So he was out. We seen him when we drove up. He was outside just going back and forth, like driving back and forth. So understanding, I guess there was another person that actually, it was Joe. You know Joe Palacios?
I do.
Yeah. So
He's so awesome.
he was like, that's, he goes, when he brought it up later, he was like, yeah, it's hard to get veterans out of the house. Because he went to one of our classes too, and he was trying to get one of his friends to come. He's like, he couldn't get him to come out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I don't know if that's just a veteran thing or if that's just, all people that, are going to a place that they're going to may be vulnerable or they may be triggered and may have an emotional episode or something. So I don't know. It's a tough thing. When I first started doing the journaling class to kind of break down the walls and let people start talking, and it was intimidating to me as well because, a lot of them were, I say older, they were probably the same age as me. But to create that dynamic so there's comfort there, right? So, but again, in my experience professionally, I did a lot of coaching and training professionally too. So I had that experience, but to do it for the emotional reason was again a little intimidating. But as time, the more vulnerable I was, the more vulnerable came. So that's the motto, like knowing the struggle. And like for me, it became a place of healing as well. When a veteran says, yeah, man, a beer, alcohol is just an aspirin for us, and I'm like, okay, but just making things real simple. Or another veteran saying, well, we stay mission focused. If there's not a mission, what are we going to do? Right. So hearing these things and reflecting back on my life, I'm like, wow, that's how I was, It's like very success oriented. I was raised that way as well,
Right.
accomplish, goal, accomplish, find your discipline, go forward, get what you're going to do. So I had always lived that way. And my friends used to joke with me because I was like, hey, man, what's your 5-year plan? Because that's how I lived. I lived with 5-year plans. If I wasn't, improving or having a
Yeah.
success, then I wasn't being who I was. But, I was looked at as success in attaining something, whether it was a better job or a degree or a house or a car. And now, I mean, I don't live that way no more. I know what's going to happen. And, my relationship with God's going to get closer. I'm going to raise other people up so they can be the best that they can be. Those are the things that I know they're going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It's just staying, my mission, it's staying mission focused still
Yeah.
is to spread the good news,
Yeah.
and it's, Jesus came to show us how to overcome this world, so we, that's what we want to teach. I would say, to find God is a journey of self-discovery, right? Because it's us that we're fighting with to understand who God is.
So I know, like, how would you approach that veteran that doesn't want to come out of the house or first responder? Because one of my favorite things is always saying, like, I came, I saw, I had anxiety, I left. Like,
I've
bro,
seen that.
yeah. And I do that often, even family
Yeah.
functions.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Or you'll
Just-
say, okay, you'll RSVP for it. Now, I don't know. If I
Yeah.
really want to go.
Yeah.
Oh, I've done
yeah,
Yeah, there's a trigger in there for some reason, right? There's past issues or past ways you've dealt with it, because I understand the anxiety of going to a place and how I got over it. Well, I would drink.
Yeah.
So it would make me relax, right? I tell a story when I was at my first high school party. I was like maybe 15 years old or something. And there was older kids there, right? I was nervous, but I started drinking and started loosening up, and then people started liking me, and then people were talking to me and everything else. So it became a go-to for me to drink when I was uncomfortable. But what would I say for people that have a hard time coming out? Man, you just have to face, for veterans, you signed a blank check to serve in the military, and you could have died. I promise you're not going to die if you get out if you leave your house and you go to one of my classes or go to a function that we're at. You're not going to die. Again, first responders, they put themselves in harm's way. You're not going to be, you're not going to die.
yeah.
I think sometimes too, having events where spouses can come. I know we've had events where we've had equine and
Yeah.
journaling, and classes where we have like veterans and spouses, or just, and I think that helps with some people coming because they have their partner already with
100%.
them.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like a comfort, like
Yes,
a
it's a
comfort
comfort.
blanket. I don't know,
Right,
something
right,
similar. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And just and then when starting any of the classes, just starting with like, you don't have to share. If you want to share, that's great. But if you don't, like, this is for you.
Right.
This journaling stuff, this is for you. So if you don't, and eventually, you end up with people sharing as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, it's always like you always want to keep those relationships within life happen,
Mm-hmm.
because you see some, I don't want to call them breakthroughs, but when somebody realizes, like, their eyes will light up and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, or when they experience something another experiences, and it's like, okay, I'm not the only one. But yeah, so those are the communities we try to cultivate, or we try to create, even with people in recovery.
And the coolest thing is to watch some people exchange numbers at the end
Yeah.
of the class, and that they've made a connection there, and that they're going to end up, being friends and stuff. So that's always a good
So
thing to see.
y'all work with veterans, first responders, and the youth?
Mhm.
We do have you.
And educators, and then individuals in recovery.
Man,
Yes.
that's amazing. That's a lot. That's
Mhm.
a lot. Can you share a story, anonymous, of course, of a way that you see that you've impacted someone's life?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
shared the young lady that she does
Right.
peer support
Mhm.
with,
Mm-hmm.
which is,
Yeah.
which is
And
one.
the biggest compliment is her family member saying, like, telling me, oh, she enjoys her time with you. She loves you because you accept her for who she is. And that to me is the greatest compliment. And
So there's this one lady that she was in recovery, and she reached out. Well, she was in a rehab facility, and then she got out, she wound up reaching out to us. She's doing amazing things now. She has a ministry and she helps people, and it's amazing. But she had reached out, sat down with us, and we were, I think I was like struggling. I was having a hard time dealing with some, and we're, over tacos at a Mexican restaurant, and she has me bawling. I'm crying like a baby because she's like, how did you know this, But, again, she's a very faithful woman. But what made us reconnect was her husband was having a bout of like anxiety. It was, so he was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He just retired and stuff.
Too quiet.
Yeah, it was too quiet. And she remembered what, I taught in class, the quiet, sometimes we're afraid of the quiet because we don't know what to do.
Right.
Our mind can start racing, but the quiet is peace. And you have to come to terms with being at peace sometimes, right? And so she told him that, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What I don't know, whatever, who this guy is or whatever. So hung up. Like a few hours later, he called her back and was like, I don't know who this Gabe is, but he may be onto something.
Like that light came up.
Yeah.
And them, but she's one of those that's remained in our life, and I absolutely love it because it's just easy. You don't often see the ripple effects. You don't often see what happens to people when they leave your class, and so to have somebody to come back and to share, and then to feel like we get, like you said, get so much to pour into you, and then to watch how she's pouring into others, and to be able to drive up north and go see her ministry is just incredibly powerful.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
Jesus. So what do y'all see? What are the future plans for Warrior Spirit? Excuse me.
So again, we're working with AI assisted counseling. We're looking into holistic healing alternatives to offer through the nonprofit. And this came upon me this past week is a Follow Me ministry, Follow Me 419. I think I'm going to do through Warrior Spirit, just focused on the teachings of Jesus, accepting all.
The men's ministry.
Yeah, a men's ministry, which was really influenced from, so I do a prison ministry. I've been going for over a year, did a Celebrate Recovery with them, fixing to graduate like 40 people from this program. And the relationships, what I've learned from them, symbiotic relationships going back and forth, but there's just this real fellowship. And I'm hoping to maybe start a ministry, maybe people that were incarcerated that get out, help them with if they want to start a ministry, or if they're struggling in their life in the transition, give them something to focus on, which is Follow Me Ministry 419, which is all about just what Jesus says to do. Jesus did not come to be served. He came to serve. So those are the things that are on the horizon. See how they're going to pan out. But yeah, maybe in another year. Like I don't believe we were made to run this whole nonprofit. I think we're creating a space for like-hearted individuals to put in Warrior Spirit, let them run it, let them do it. I mean, that's where ultimately I think it's going to be, because it's I don't want to say it's about legacy, because it's not really about legacy. It's about nurturing the hearts. It's about nurturing the hearts so when it's time to harvest, people are able to give.
I think it's the more like the classes we've done. I did a self-care class, and that has led to like another speaking engagement. And so these kinds of things come up, but then the ideas that we get from others as well. So it's not just like, hey, I think, what about this or what about that? It's like we're not just brainstorming ourselves, but we're listening to the people that we fellowship. We're listening to the people that we teach the classes with. And so one of the ladies was talking about that there's no support group for women with anxiety in a specific area. And she was like, I would really like to see something like that happen. And so I think about those things and I'm like, I would really like to see something like that happen. And how can we make that, how can we work with our partners to make something like that happen? So finding out what people really need and what's not out there now, and how can we make that happen? And that might not be, I may not be able to do that, but we may be able to have partners that can make that happen. And so I think that's something that's going to be an ongoing thing with us all the time, is how to tap into that community
I think more than anything else, it's a movement of God happening. I think we are again evolving spiritually as a world. We may be on the front end of it, the middle of it. I don't know, but it's something's changing because it changed in me. There's no denying that something just flipped in me that said, "This is what you got to do now." And I believe a lot more people are getting that call. You may have experienced too. So it's a shift in the world.
So with Warrior Spirit, okay, so how do people find you? What is the best contact? What
So we have a website, warriorspirittexas.com. We have our, you
Say it again.
want to do the social media stuff?
Oh, yes. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Haven't quite gotten to talk just yet. That's something that Anne is really good at Rainbow of Hope. And so she's teaching me. But for the most part, we do a lot of networking, a lot of community events. But people have found us through the website, through social media, through our partners. People have referrals that way. But we're easily accessible through email, through phone. I'm the keeper of the calendar. So I think we've been really fortunate. We haven't really had to do a lot of like advertising or anything like that. It's just kind of people have come into
Well, last year we really sowed a lot of seeds and we were really busy.
networking.
So we've taken a step back and let the seeds that were sown come to harvest. And, again, people are calling us. We're still doing a little bit of networking. But again, we're being a little bit more intentional on funding, right? We always talk about 4 streams of funding in nonprofit, and services is the one we're working on right now. We're going to see, because, I don't want to have to worry about the money piece, right? So we'll see how it works out. People give monthly donations, subscriptions, and
Yeah, we
it's
do.
awesome.
and they can donate through the website.
Yes.
We have different monthly giving levels or one-time giving levels as well. And you can see what you support as well. So it's the different levels.
If you're a corporate donor, like you're giving $12,000, $24,000, I mean, you're going to get like my services throughout the year if you want. 'Cause again, I'm a safety leadership guy. So implementing programs, training, if you want to have self-care, teach OSHA classes. I'm OSHA outreach trainer. Again, corporate donors will actually get access to me for some events. I think it's like 1 or 2 events a month. You're at that $24,000, $12,000 level.
So what events, do y'all have any events coming up or anything that anywhere y'all be within the next month or so?
We have a fundraiser that's in the works for the fall with a group that we belong to, but we don't have a date or anything set
Yes,
like that for yet.
We're actually being sponsored in Pearland or Sugarland. Joe is it's a board game. Right?
Oh, that's right. The brawl. Yes, it's you have the Comic-Con, those kinds of things. Well, this is all for board games and I think there's some virtual aspects to it as well. But we're one of the beneficiaries. So when people buy the badges, people buy the tickets to get into the games, then a portion of that comes to us.
Oh, nice.
And so things like that are
Right.
just absolutely amazing. We've done some profit shares. We did one with Gringos. And then it also does wonders for community awareness as well.
Yeah.
So-
We haven't had one big great event yet. I think
No.
we're still trying to figure it out.
Because everybody has a golf tournament. Everybody has a pickleball tournament now. And
I
lots
still
of
don't know what
dinners.
that
And
is.
so trying to find something that's a little different. I think that's what the group is talking about, is finding something that's unique. It's not just a dinner or not just
Right.
so something that can really bring our partners together as well.
We did
That's
we took part in an awesome fundraiser on 4th of July.
Yes.
Serve.
the Freedom Cruise.
Yeah, it's a Freedom Cruise. So you go out in Kima on a boat and watch the fireworks for 4th of July. That was pretty cool.
With Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great experience. So yeah, so there's a lot of fun things and a lot of creative things, and like you said, just kind of that's what we're gonna be focusing on now, is that sustainability, because we're here, we've grown so much, there's so much more to be done, and so we just keep